Hello, I'm Jackie Marson and welcome to this week's edition of Love Decoded, brought to you by eHarmony, the site that takes finding love seriously. If you're fascinated by the science of love, decoding the mysteries of attraction and unraveling our ideas of romance, then this is the show for you. Now this week I'm very excited to say we're going to be discussing dating deal breakers, a topic that I think is endlessly fascinating. So we'll be answering your questions throughout the show, so please join in with the conversation in the comments now. And also I want you today to kind of send in what's your most unusual deal breaker, either that you have ever had or that you've ever heard about, because there's some crazy ones out there, ridiculous ones, and it's good to bring some humour to it. So have you ever ended a relationship over something small that you just couldn't ignore? We would love to hear your stories. Just send in one word if you want, like, shoes, hair, sandwich. So today I'm joined by eHarmony's in-house relationship expert, Rachel Lloyd, and acclaimed makeup artist and life coach, Lee Pycroft. Rachel and Lee, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you very much.
Juicy topic.
Isn't it a juicy topic?
Great topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought we should get so much, I hope, on this today. And we're all going to be really honest, aren't we, about our own deal?
Absolutely.
Yes, we're going to try.
All about.
Yes.
So we'll come to that in just a minute.
Yes.
I thought, like, we'll just open it with a bit of setting this up in a bit of theory. Lee, I mean, we all have, probably, or many people have this idea of a type, that's my type, and it's this, that, and the other. Where does that differ from a deal breaker? And when is that when does it become unhelpful?
Okay, so I think that firstly you can have a type, but I think when people talk about types, they make it quite general. And I think that really knowing what you want to create in a relationship is really important. So you'd have your must-haves, so you might have your type of person, things in common, values, that kind of thing. And then your must-have-nots, which are really your deal breakers. And I think that can change depending on what life phase you're at. Now, if we're talking about dating, we're really looking at just exploring whether someone is right for us and whether we're right for them. So, I mean, it can be, anything from sort of online, for example. Someone might tell a fib about on their profile or something like that, which happened to me.
Wait. You told a fib, or you caught out a fib?
No, I didn't tell a fib. Jackie. No, they told a fib, actually. So I remember dating someone and it all looked great online. And then when we'd been seeing each other for a little bit, I saw his passport in his sitting room.
What, you mean you found
I was going to say,
snooping involved. But it was actually just there, and I sort of flicked it open, and then the date was very different. I thought, no, why would you do
Wait, the date of birth?
Yes, date of
birth.
birth.
About his age?
Yes, done about his age,
Yeah.
exactly, which of course can happen. So I think the deal breakers really are what the deal breakers are maybe when you're first starting dating, and then once you get into the relationship, the things that you really must have not. You must have nots because it's unhealthy for you.
Yes.
And it's not in alignment with your values.
Yes. So I thought, researching this topic, I thought there's two different kind of deal breakers to me. There are those kind of you were talking about that are about compatibility, about your values.
Yes.
Let's call them maybe almost like the sensible deal breakers, or deal makers. That's a more positive way of
Yeah, like deal makers.
Deal makers.
Yeah.
But then to me, over the years with my clients, with my friends, with myself, I think another thing to talk about today that's got more humour attached to it is where we have these sort of slightly ridiculous, ludicrous things that are often about superficiality, about fashion, about what we think our friends will think.
Yes.
And it's those I want to unearth a bit. So let me ask you now, let's be honest, if we're asking people to send those in, Rachel,
Why did I have to go first?
Looking back, you can go back over many
As I look back,
years.
I'm giggling because I'm remembering I went on a date once with a guy that he was fine, slightly bad genes when he got to the date, but then he started talking about his gerbil. And he was really attached to this gerbil. And after the date, he texted me a picture of him and his gerbil.
Did he give it a really human name?
Yeah,
Like Steve or Brian?
And so, and I tried to sort of set up for a second date because I thought in every other respect, and it's nice that he has this fondness for this creature.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, in the end, it just felt a bit too weird too early.
It might be a bit too much competition. It's gerbil.
You see, but that's it, because some of them are ludicrous. Your animal love with, how cute, he
I'm
loves
so
this
sorry
animal, he
about
sent you a picture.
Yeah.
But it's about the meaning it holds to you.
course,
And that's a real area for you, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite like
it's the
this
association you
CBT,
have with the past. Because everything,
Yes.
every emotion we have will have an association to a past event, you know, and I think that deal breakers, suddenly it can be just something that's really irritating. I'll have a thing about if someone has a really high-pitched voice, then that just doesn't, it just doesn't resonate with me. It's really interesting. I don't take them seriously. Now, where's that come from?
Yeah.
My friend once went on, again, another internet date, not eHarmony, of course, because they would be more intelligently matched. But she went on a date and went to pick up this guy that she hadn't spoken to, obviously, they'd emailed, and he had a really, really squeaky voice. And I hope she's not watching because she'll sort of might strangle me for telling this story. But as he went, hi, and went to get in the car, she just said, stand back a minute, and literally floored it and drove off. I mean, that was so unkind.
terrible.
But these things can be ridiculous and very superficial.
Very superficial, exactly, yeah.
And I guess, you know, in a way, we really need to think about like the deal makers, because deal breakers are things that can be adapted or worked with, or they might just be silly old prejudices, you know?
Yeah, because what I was thinking about this is like, it's not genetic that we have things that are on lots of people's tops of their lists. Like, I looked at this Psychology Today in America. They had interviewed thousands of people. Top of the list for women was bad table manners and poor hygiene. And I kind of thought, well, they're not genetic things that you might not shower enough or that you talk with your mouth open with food in it. So actually, they're habits. They've been learned.
It's a learned behaviour, isn't it?
You could relearn that. In fact, I know someone whose girlfriend fell in love with this woman. She said to him, I can't bear it, you eat with your mouth open. And he changed it immediately. And now they're having a fantastic relationship. So it's kind of like one of the things I wanted to put out there today is that, again, we maybe make our list. We look at those deal breakers and kind of think, can I creatively, imaginatively see around that? Or once we got to the point where we had enough communication, could we talk about it? Have you ever examples? Do you talk to clients about that, Lee?
Yes, I do. But I think it can be very easy to be very set in what you want.
Yes.
And not have that flexibility. And I think we live in a culture where we're very visual, a lot of people, and they'll sort of, especially online, you'll look at how someone looks and what they represent to you. But I think that, you know, once you actually start digging a little deeper and really figure out what it is you want to create and your must-haves and your must-have-nots, things like if someone has a drink problem, that's a far more deep-rooted issue rather than someone who maybe chews with their mouth open or maybe isn't particularly stylishly dressed. But I think there's a very big thing around really taking responsibility for who you are in the relationship and what you're showing up with, because it's easy to project of how everyone else should be. But really, what are we showing up with in order to create that relationship? What are we coming into the relationship with?
Yeah,
yes, I would agree.
Very good point, yeah.
I think these things are often a fear of intimacy as well, a fear of engulfment. And we kind of throw these things unconsciously, you know, these sort of flags up before anything has a chance to develop. So I think if there's a sort of grey area and you know, it's something superficial like, you know, I didn't like their jeans or the way that they sort of pronounce, you know, certain words, then I think it's worth going back again and really looking at your part in that. What is it about, you know, why are you so hesitant? And the other thing, eHarmony-wise, is that we have actually done research on this.
Of course you have.
Ta-da!
Yes, yes.
And our research shows that about 75% of people say that they do have a type as such, but 2/3 of people are actually in a happy long-term relationship with someone that wasn't their traditional type.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's very...
Say that, what's
Yeah.
that? 2/3?
2/3
are in a happy relationship with someone
admit
they thought wasn't their type.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's our message today about kind of opening your imagination,
Yeah.
isn't it? And
So-
owning your own stuff.
Yeah, so they were either willing to give it a go and just keep seeing the person and work through any kind of little reservations they had until they got to know the quality of the person, or maybe they just got to know them at work or through friends. And of course, that's a lovely way as well, organically, to meet people because you see who they really are.
Yeah, and also I think you can tune into how you feel around them.
Yeah.
As online, you're looking at things really sort of in one-dimensional, aren't
true.
you? Whereas when you're actually with someone, you can pick up on the little nuances, whether you know, have good communication, whether you just have that rapport with them, which I think is, you know, obviously the building blocks of a relationship.
yes,
when you develop that rapport with somebody.
I would second that by saying at eHarmony, we always encourage people to get offline and meet up as soon as they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's crucial because it's that human interaction. I think in a digital age,
Yeah.
you know, it's very easy to, you know, end up just texting friends even,
Yeah.
you know, and remain online. But actually, it's that human contact, it's
Yeah.
the eye contact.
The
Yeah.
smell,
It's-
just using our senses.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the smell
Yeah.
of a person, the kind of feel of them,
Yeah.
their skin. The voice thing, that's an interesting one, because that kind of crosses the barrier, doesn't it? That's sort of in real life. You're not going to get that online. You're not going to pick that up.
Well, we did do a study once on attractive accents. And actually, it was, you know, counterintuitively, it wasn't really the sort of French or Italian accent that people sort of lusted after the most. It was received pronunciation.
Was it?
So just sort of...
Really? Well,
you
that's
know,
the posh kind of English
Yeah,
that the
like
BBC
you,
readers
Jackie.
like mine. And yours, and all of us, actually.
We're all guilty of that. So it was, but the Geordie accent actually did quite well as well. But it also depends on trends, because Cheryl Cole was on TV a lot at the time. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
again, these things are like shifting sands, aren't
absolutely.
they?
Yes,
Yeah,
totally.
what becomes trendy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back just a tiny bit
Yeah.
what you said about fear. That you didn't
Yeah.
use the word fear. What did you say? Fear of intimacy.
Yeah, fear of intimacy.
That's been my experience with my clients, really. The ones who have the kind of really specific and quite picky list, who would go on a date and immediately say, like, it was his
Not
shoes.
right, yeah.
He had the wrong shoes on. I go, well,
Yeah.
what shoes is he meant to have? And she go, well, not trainers, not brogues, not formal polished shoes. And it was like, maybe he could wear one shoe. And I'll say, okay, let's explore this. This is about your fears of intimacy, engulfment, about being hurt. So until you
Yes.
can, one, uncover them, I would say, what those
Vulnerabilities
rigid
are.
personal rules are, and then
Yeah.
what's your vulnerability?
Yeah.
What are you scared of?
Yeah,
You're not really
absolutely.
going to get past them because you're using them as a barrier, aren't you?
Yeah. And I think that when in relationship, you know, the reason we go into relationships is to amplify our experience of life, right? We live our life through emotion. And so when we're looking for a partner, we're looking to amplify our experience of life, aren't we? So you kind of think, well, within that, our past experience is going to impact how we show up in the present, unless we have the awareness to understand what it is we're reacting to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take
yeah.
responsibility for that again. Because it's easy, we might say, you know, on a superficial level, I don't like the person's shoes, or you evoked a certain emotional reaction in you. But you've got to learn what those emotional reactions are being attributed to in the past, and really clean that up before you come back into
Yes.
the present.
Now, Rachel, you had quote you from before. You had a good example about. You wanted to share that one?
Yeah, sure.
In the early days, that you were attracted to a certain. You had a type.
Yes,
But
for
go
many
on.
years I was always attracted to dark-haired guys, preferably with brown eyes and wavy hair. I had a real thing, particularly I was alive in the early 90s, and, and wavy hair did it for me. And I even at one point in my distant youth went on a French dating website.
To get the Gallic charm.
Just to try, because I thought, well, I actually went on a date to Paris, but that's a whole nother story. He
For
was-
another day, another episode.
and he was actually already in a relationship and he hadn't told me, so we won't go there. Wasn't eHarmony, clearly. So, but what I realised was it was all about my dad. So I was totally in love with my dad as a little girl, like he was my hero. And he had wavy, almost raven black hair. He had that sort of Welsh blood. And the other thing I noticed when I sort of thought back is he always had expensive Italian-made shoes. You know, he was quite glamorous.
Stylish.
And
yeah.
so a man that's got those really expensive shoes and tailored clothes and that sort of thick, dark hair can really trigger me.
Yes.
But I have to look at that now and also say, I have to look beyond that.
Yes, of course, that's right.
Because that's just an automatic reaction, and actually that doesn't mean that that's the best person for me. It depends what they have to offer.
And that's where
you
the
know.
self-awareness comes
Yeah.
in, isn't it, of knowing that.
So how did you find that out? Did you come to that by yourself, or did that take therapy? Because that was locked away
No,
in
I
your
did have some
subconscious,
therapy
wasn't
about
it?
it, yeah. Well, it was fairly obvious that I was going for a type that reminded me of my dad, but I had to look at the fact that I was limiting my choices in therapy, because I really was, because it was almost like if a guy was sort of fair at all, you know, blue-eyed, blonde, it would almost feel like I can't... Actually, strangely enough, I would then transfer that onto my younger brother and think that would feel odd, like I'm dating my brother. So, you know, these things can be quite complex, but actually I feel like I've really, thrown out those sort of criteria now and widened, because, you know, otherwise we just keep repeating patterns.
We do,
you know?
we're just on that subconscious rail track of doing the same old thing.
Yeah.
So in a way, and not that we're saying people shouldn't go to therapy, but today, a takeaway for the viewers watching could be, do you think this might work with, that you just list your deal breakers
Yeah.
I was thinking this could be a little takeaway exercise.
yeah.
And you just looked at, are 1, 2, 3, where do they come from? Are some of them a bit faintly ludicrous that you might choose to take them off the list?
Yeah, and I think writing it down is really powerful as well.
Yeah.
So you can really see it literally in black and white. So you know what you do want and you know exactly what you don't want. And then you kind of look at it again and say, well, what are the things I could really let go of? Like,
Yes.
you know, the shoes, for example.
Yes.
And
possibly the curly hair.
Possibly the curly hair.
Well, I actually had an ex-boyfriend who helped me dress better. So sometimes other people's deal breakers can sort of improve your
Yes,
experience.
absolutely.
And
Because
it is that openness, isn't it? I think?
Yeah.
Yes, and you say that again in your blogs and
Yes.
vlogs, which we'll come on to in a minute, because I want
Yes.
you to talk about your pockets of wisdom,
pockets of wisdom.
which I really, really love.
Thank
But I
you.
think we may have a question, so we will go to our first question. Just to say, everyone out there watching, please don't forget, if you have a question, a comment, or an experience to share, we would love to hear what have been your deal breakers in the past. What are they now? So just be sure to let us know in the comments below. And what about your wish list? Isn't it a good idea sometimes for singles that we need that wish list? That sort of turns it on its head. That's like what we were talking about, the deal makers, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's your must-have. So I think this is where you have to create a very clear picture of what you want. So you risk going into a relationship and just reacting to what shows up. You know, the first person that maybe gives you a lot of attention or meets an emotional need in
It's
you.
familiar to you.
It's familiar to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
often people will go into dating, and if they haven't cleaned up their past, they haven't got the self-awareness, they haven't created a clear picture in their mind, in their imagination of what is healthy for them, what they want to create, whether it's a short-term relationship, an explorer, an adventure, or something more long-term and committed. And I think that it's knowing and having that clarity that is really key.
Yeah, clarity is always a kind of key word.
Our research shows a quarter of people are confused about what their type is and what they should
yeah.
be looking for.
Right.
So actually, you know, it kind of tallies with all the conversations we're having, is that people obviously are confused because they're kind of like, if they have a type, they're sort of, it's not necessarily taking them in the right direction. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes, no, I could understand that you would have that confusion, because that
Yeah.
is the process, really. That's
Yeah.
what... Okay, ladies, we do have our first question. So this is a really, really good one. Classic. Jake asks, I'm 5'7" and single, and I'm really struggling to find someone who is willing to look past my height. I'd happily date someone taller than me, but how do I find someone who's happy to date a shorter man? Jake, thank you so much for writing that in. This is a massive one, both, again, in my life experience and research I've been doing, talking to my sons. One of my sons said, a friend of his who's 5'3", for weeks he never got a swipe on Tinder if he was honest about his height. But then if he isn't honest about his height and he turns up to a date...
Yeah, of course, it's obvious.
Yeah, and so I just thought, apart, you know, I'm sort of shocked and appalled, and yet that's still clearly really deeply in our... I don't know, our cultural zeitgeist. Is it for women? What do you two think about that?
I think this is the thing. We have this sort of, you know, cultural idea of what being a desirable is.
Yes.
And I think that if you're 5'7" and you have a belief that being 5'7" is not okay, it's not enough in the construct, societal construct. I think firstly you've got to look for role models, people who you admire who are 5'7". You know, and use those as your sort of mentors, you know, people that inspire you. You know, think of all the people. I mean, I watched Paul Simon on stage the other night.
Yeah, he's quite tiny, isn't he?
5'3".
Oh, is he? Is he really?
Yes.
Tom Cruise, he's
Tom
fairly
Cruise,
tiny.
He's very small. Yeah, I remember working with him years ago. So there are men out there, and it's really about how present you are with a female that's really going to get their attention. And really, I think, you know, you can't lie about it. You can't change it. So what's within your control?
I agree with that.
You know, what can you do that is within your control?
Yeah.
So, Jack, you know, you let that bit go. And it only takes one person. You're only looking for one person, you know, if you're looking for a long-term committed relationship, who can see that. And there are plenty of shorter women out there.
Yeah.
So I think it's letting go of these really rigid ideals that make us feel or can contribute to us feeling not good enough.
Yeah.
And looking at our belief system and saying, well, actually, you know, that's not going to serve me. I'm not going to show up wholeheartedly if I meet someone, if I have this belief that, you know, I'm not enough at 5'7".
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now Lee, I didn't think you were going to say that, actually. That's kind of really interesting advice. It's more about Jake himself rather than us kind of criticising women
really
for
good
being
advice.
too judgmental.
Yeah.
Because you also write, and again, I've written about this, about when you go on a date, you've got to get out of your own head and be available
Yeah.
and be a good listener, the active listener. So if Jake, maybe we don't have to be critical at all, Jake, because it's obviously very difficult for you, but if you go on a date in your own head thinking, I'm not enough, they're going to say this, you're like waiting for them to reject you.
And also,
it's not going to work.
Yeah, you set your brain. The way it works is if we start to imagine something, so if you're going out on a date, Jake, and you're thinking they're not going to like me, your brain will seek out all those things at times it can see, where it will basically,
sort of pattern match
to that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, before you go on a date, what can be really helpful is to use your imagination, which is our most powerful resource, if you think about it. Everything that we have is we've created in our imagination first, right? And often people will have an idea of how they should be in terms of being desirable. So before you go out, imagine very clearly and calmly how you could show up on that date, Jake. How could you leave someone better off for having met you? What could you take away from that? What could you learn from being in that environment with that person from a human perspective? Because I think in dating, it's very easy to project and to fantasize about how things are going to be. And we're going to fit into this sort of social construct of what, being desirable and beautiful is. And I think it's looking beyond that and looking at your own belief system and really coming, I'm a big believer in coming in from a much more human perspective of one human being meeting another human being, and you happen to be male and female.
Yeah. Because that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. And if you can be present with someone and listen, there's a huge amount of value in that.
Yes. And that is, again, about not being hung up on your own insecurities in order to be available.
Totally.
Rachel, what would you say to Jake?
I feel like I've had a warm psychological cuddle from Leah. It's so lovely, that advice, and it's so sort of tailored.
Yeah.
And it made me pause for thought and think, it is about having a meaningful experience with somebody and not necessarily thinking about, will I tick this box, will they tick that? Because you want to take something away from that time together.
Yeah.
So I'm really liking that.
Human point. I think with deal breakers, we're being slightly humorous about this.
Yeah, we are.
But when you look at it at a deeper level, I think it is about not going in with the expectation.
Yes.
Going in from a place of appreciation rather than what am I going to get from this person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what are they going to think of me? What can I give to this person in this short period of time I'm with them?
Yeah.
What human exchange can we have that will both open us up to a new way of perhaps seeing dating or relationships or interacting with each other? And, when we're dating, as we're exploring whether someone is right for us, I think it's a really warm and human way of going about it rather than having tons of checklists. But you have your clear picture, but going in from a place of appreciation.
Yeah, no, lovely. That's gorgeous for everything, really. I would just say, maybe a practical note for Jake. There's something about, again, we were talking about the digital world and digital dating, all the swiping. That does going to privilege the visual and these pieces of information. So I think, Jake, what we call it in real life, IRL, it's like, get out there. We've said this in other episodes, but it's kind of like where you're passionate, where you're at your best, sort of like you're saying, Lee. Go to activities, meet women in real life where they will see beyond your height, because it's irrelevant about what kind of person you are. That you're
confident people, don't
exactly.
they? People love people who are in the flow, in their zone, doing what they love. That's what attracts people to you.
Your passion and your enthusiasm, and that's when you're not being self-conscious and not thinking about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jake, I would say that's from the panel of experts here. It's so think of some role models, go and meet people in real life, and also really those women who are going to judge you on your height. You don't really want to be with them anyway. You want someone who values you for the precious and unique person you are. So more questions, please. Do you have a burning question? Do you agree with what we're saying, our assessments? You can totally disagree. Write in the comment section. We'll be taking more of your questions after this look at one of eHarmony's love stories.
I was scared to death of dating. I looked at what I really wanted to get out of life, and that was when I decided to go on eHarmony and try a different method.
I had been living overseas and had recently moved back, and all my friends were either married or in long-term relationships, so eHarmony seemed to be the good way to go.
I'm Martin.
I'm Morwenna. We live in Bristol and we've been together 8 years. I liked the matching process, so I felt that anybody that I met would have invested some time and effort into it.
The whole process of going through that questionnaire really had you think about who it was you wanted to meet as well.
It got me thinking about what I wanted in a partner rather than what somebody might want in me, and that was a big shift. I just thought you were too good to be true, really. Yeah, I had this wish list, and then a kind of secret secondary wish list, and yeah, there's still things on there that he does now, and I'm like, oh, that's off that secondary secret wish list that no one knows about.
I certainly wouldn't have approached you in the pub. I'd have been scared to death. So. But the whole eHarmony process, just it's such a gentle approach. You get to know really deep things about each other quite early on.
I think anybody looking in could see that we're happy and content.
Something in that match has worked here. I'm pretty sure of that.
I think eHarmony does make happy relationships. Yeah, certainly made one here.
Yeah.
It was heartwarming to see another eHarmony happy couple. You're watching Love Decoded, brought to you by eHarmony. I'm Jackie Marston, and today I'm joined by Rachel Lloyd, eHarmony's relationship expert and makeup artist and love coach Lee Pycroft, who's giving us some amazing bits of kind of wisdom and insight in our dating deal breakers that we're talking about today. So please join in the conversation in the comments now and get involved with what we're saying. So we have another question here from Ellen. Ellen asks, on a first date, what are the things we should look out for? Okay, thank you, Ellen. I would say before that, I'm always, it rings my alarm bell when someone uses the words should. And you actually, Lee, you've written about that because it's part of rigid personal rules when we say, I should do this, I should do that. Yes. And if you change it to a could, you open up the world. One is very narrow and rigid and judgmental, the should. And one, so we'll just repeat that for people because that was one of my massive ahas. Sometimes I'd work with people for weeks and they'll go like, oh, the thing I learned from you was the should to could.
Yes, yeah. I mean, just using those words, I mean, it's interesting the words people use, isn't it?
Yes.
To describe things, because it will create an emotional response in your body.
Yes.
You know, and then through that, then you're going to behave in a certain way.
Yeah, so should is immediately like you become a bit rigid. Yeah.
Putting pressure on yourself.
Yes,
you know, and if it's not that, then it can't be. And it goes into that sort of way of black and white thinking.
Exactly.
You know, when we can catastrophise, when we get a bit emotionally hijacked, we'll shut down access to that logical part of our brain, and it's either this or it's that. It's very black and white.
That's right.
So opening up and just using that vocabulary could just opens it up and it's a bit more flexible.
That's right. So Ellen, what could you be doing on the first date? What could you be looking for?
Well, I think firstly, you should be really open-minded. I mean, there's obvious things like if someone is very rude or bad-tempered. I think if they are not listening to you, if they are very distracted by their mobile phone, if they're not present with you, you will pick up on it. And I think it's just going into it from that place of openness. And if you've done what we were suggesting earlier, and you've created a picture of what it is you would like to create, then you're going to have an idea already of when you go into that. And think of it, you know, and this is why I'm a big fan of sort of, you know, don't do a big first date. Go for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think
yes.
You
know,
go for a cup of coffee in the daytime.
And we've talked about this before, haven't we? Even going for an activity date where you're sort of side by side in parallel rather than that interview mode, which brings nerves and tensions and kind of allows itself for the deal breakers because you're looking at the shoes and the hair and the way they talk and everything, isn't it?
Just go in and see how you feel and just be open-minded, and you'll have your sort of clear picture anyway of what you want and what you don't want. And I think just be open about it.
Yeah. I would say it's good to find out a bit about the person before you go on the date, because some people literally, they just do a quick swipe and they're off. So if you can establish that you've got some common ground and that you're looking for the same kind of thing and, you know, and be fairly open about that. I think people tend to be a bit coy and mysterious when they're out there in the world of casual digital dating. And I think, you know, if you're looking for a meaningful relationship, a long-lasting one, then you can be pretty open about what you're looking for before you go on the date. But having got there, I think, don't put too much pressure on. This has got to be, you know, and this is an audition for both of us, and we need to see if we actually have any future together, you know, be it 2 weeks in Swansea or a lifetime. And I think, you know...
Swansea,
why not?
Love it, Swansea fans.
And I think kindness, but the big thing that seems to separate a lot of my female friends, just sort of, you know, chatting with them, is who pays the bill. Which sounds really dated and a bit sexist, whichever way you look at it. But there seem to be so many women I know who sort of, they feel like a man is not treating them properly if he's not picking up the bill, which I find kind of odd in modern times. So, you know, our perception of what is good and bad behaviour on a date can be affected by our own background, our values, and our age, actually. I'd be interested to know what 20-somethings think about that one. But
I think also this is why when you go out and it's a cup of coffee, fine, you know. You
keep
can
it
split
simple.
Keep it simple.
Yes.
And then as time progresses, you can talk about, you know, who pays for what. And I think, you know, most women work, they have their own incomes.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to sort of treat your partner sometimes, your boyfriend, if it develops into that. And depending on the type of man, some men like to pay more. You know, it can be a status thing sometimes. So I think it's something you can discuss, but in the early days...
It's not a deal breaker, is it?
No,
Not
I
on
don't
an
think
early
it's a deal
date.
breaker unless,
Yeah.
you know, not on an early date. I think
Yeah.
keep it really simple.
Yeah.
I think also the idea of going for this first date, and again, like you would say, but opening your mind and kind of making some allowances.
Yes.
Because I think often, I mean, I know we're talking to women and men here today, but, you know, we can be that very rigidness about thinking you talk about your fantasy figure, and women can often put that onto men, rather than thinking they are just as nervous and anxious probably
Absolutely.
as you are,
It's the
because
human
we're all
perspective.
human beings,
Yeah.
the human perspective. So kind of if someone, because when I looked at this Psychology Today research, one of the number one deal breakers is being rude to a waiter. And of course we'd all agree, it feels like, yeah, of course. But someone could be sort of so tense and rigid, they sort of
realise.
dismiss the way. Yeah, and I kind of think, can we have a little bit of wiggle room?
Little bit
here?
leeway.
And maybe start a little conversation about that, or I don't know. I'll be all for giving people second chances. Really, what do you think of that?
I think people are doing their best. I think dating for some people are really good at dating and they're confident daters.
Yes,
And
yes.
other people do struggle, they get more anxious, and you know, it can depend on how attracted they are to the person as well. Sometimes the more you're attracted to your date, the less you can
be quite
relax.
distracting.
Yeah,
in actual
yeah.
fact. You know, the more
So-
attracted you are, you can
Yeah.
sort of sideswiped by being a bit
Yes,
emotionally
absolutely.
hijacked.
Or sort of polished
Tongue-tied.
manners.
I actually, I tend to go quiet if I'm
Ah.
really attracted to somebody and it takes me by
Yes.
surprise. It's like an ambush. And
Yes.
suddenly, going from being normally a bit of a chatterbox, I sort of become a bit like,
So then
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
might, if someone's being very judgmental with their own deal breakers, they might say to you, oh, she was a bit of an ice maiden. She was
Yeah,
a bit kind
exactly.
of quiet. And,
I can be,
And
probably.
actually you were paralysed because they were so good looking.
yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. Ellen, I hope that's enough kind of guidance. We didn't mean to be rude about the not using should, but if you start, when you notice yourself using a should, change it to a could. That is potentially really life-changing. So Lily asks, I know it sounds shallow, well, I think this whole topic can potentially be quite shallow, but my boyfriend has recently grown a beard and I hate it. Can I ask him to shave it off, or should I just drop subtle hints that I'm not keen? Okay, thank you very much for that, Lily.
I'm a big believer,
facial hair.
if the boyfriend wants to have a beard, that's his right. If he wants to have a beard, he wants to have a beard. But you can easily say, you know, I find it more attractive without a beard. But then you'll let it go, you know, because it's his choice.
Well, after saying it once, let it go.
Yeah, you know, and you know, reinforce, if you see a picture without the beard, say, oh, you know, I love that look on you, it's great.
Yeah.
So you're reinforcing, in a subtle way, what it was like without the beard. But,
That's
you
a
know,
good idea.
I
That's very
think,
good,
you know, rather than sort of saying get rid of the beard, because, you know, people need a certain amount of autonomy and freedom. You know, it's a need we all
Absolutely.
have.
Well, shaming
And-
people's not a good idea.
Yeah, and
either.
it doesn't reinforce, you know, and build up the emotional bank account if you're saying to your partner, oh, I don't like that beard, get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you can subtly say, you know, for me, I preferred it without, but it's your face.
Or even a friend of mine who hated facial hair, she would say something about like, oh, I love kissing your smooth
Absolutely.
face.
So they
something
associate
positive.
it. Yes,
with
they
the,
associate it with an experience.
Yeah.
You know, a positive experience like that.
Yeah.
because it's like you said, shaming. It's like, to me,
Yeah.
the toxic trio is, you know, naming, shaming, blaming.
Yeah.
And as soon as we begin to get into those,
Disaster
and
zone.
we're trying to control people, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, because we all know we hate to be told what to do and
Yeah.
be ashamed about anything, whether it's about our appearance or our behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, if you inflict what you think is the way the person should look upon them and they're not comfortable, you're not going to have an authentic connection anyway.
No.
Because they're going to be kind of stressed by it at some level and not feel like they are themselves. So I agree, the positive approach is a good one.
Yeah.
And I have to say, to beard or not to beard. It just came off the tongue.
I love it.
Very good, Rachel. This is your role, the stats and the puns.
No, I think also, like, my boyfriend grew a beard and I loved it. I thought it was the most gorgeous thing, and then he shaved it off. And, you know, for me, I want to build him up all the time. I want to sort of say what I appreciate about him, because that, again, stacks the emotional bank account. It's great with or without a beard. I love it when he has stubble on a beard. But then equally, there comes a time when he wants to shave it off, and it's his
Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
I say, you know, no, I love the beard, but you're also great without it.
Because also in that long-term relationship, which I imagine, you know, most people who come to eHarmony and maybe watching the show are aiming for, you're going to change your persona, you're going to change your look, you're going to experiment with things, and we're all going to end up kind of grey-haired, overweight little old people. And that's where the compatibility comes in, what's inside.
It's the core values and personality traits that really, in the end, define the long-lasting happiness in the relationship. I mean, those are the things to consider when we're predicting whether a relationship will work. And so, yes, of course, we all have preferences physically, but actually the things that are going to give you happiness longer term are having the same outlook upon life, the same moral compass, the same sense of humour,
the cultural reference, or whatever.
And I think what's really interesting is what one person, the word one person might use might mean something different to someone else. So if someone says, you know, it's really important to me that I'm respected, well, what would be happening when you're respected?
Yes, that's a very good point.
What is actually going on?
Yeah.
And it's an interesting exercise. If you put 9 squares in a box and put in the values that are most important to you, then your partner puts in the values that are most important to them, and then you ask each other, what would be happening if I was respectful towards you? How would you experience that? What would be happening if I was loving towards you? How would you experience that? How would that show up for you? Because, you know, very often someone says, you know, I gave them everything that I have. You didn't necessarily give them what they wanted or in the language they understood.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you know, absolutely.
It's, you know, it's love languages, isn't it?
Yes. And also it's that coaching thing of almost like, is it specific, is it measurable?
Yes.
Because it's saying, oh, I want more happiness, I want more
doesn't
love.
mean anything.
What's
going to people tell you what they don't want, they often don't tell you what they want. And it's like a sort of guessing game. So.
Yeah.
It's great. We've got these good messages today about positivity, about turning that negatives into positive language. How can you say something, turn it on its head?
Yeah, totally.
And express it in a positive way.
Yeah, because and also just on a neuroscience level, you're going to get more out of that. When you start thinking about what you do want and start focusing on how that's going to show up, then you have a much clearer path for how you're going to create it. And if you're constantly thinking, well, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that, you're going to start seeing all the things you don't want. So, and you know, that communication between couples, especially as they're evolving more and developing from dating maybe into a relationship and having that clarity and understanding what each other's values are and how that is going to work on an everyday level, that's how you grow the relationship. And I'm all for, you know, many of the people I see might have problems with push-pull relationships or relationships where they're on, you know, being emotionally hijacked and they're automatically responding to things. But relationships need to amplify our experience of life and grow through them, not close us down. You know, that's why we're in them. And I think that if we're not, that's why we go back to being clear when we go in them of what we want. Then we've got a better chance of actually developing it and being with someone who we can grow with.
Yeah, I think a lot of us fall into relationships, and particularly with all the sort of online casual dating sites and apps, it's very easy to just suddenly find yourself 6 months down the line in a relationship with someone who's a bit of a stranger fundamentally. You don't really get each other or know each other, you just have this chemistry that has seen you through the first few months, and it's been, and of course sex is a great distractor and you can get high for a long time on that, but at some point that plateaus, and that's when you need exactly what you're talking about.
Build up these other things.
And how many times have we heard that, you know, the sex is great, but that just doesn't mean you have to be with the person in the long term.
What do we all say here? That, you know, chemistry without compatibility doesn't really generally get you very far.
No, you need both.
You need both.
Yeah.
But if it push came to shove, the compatibility probably kind of has that edge because the chemistry is going to change and wear off a bit.
So, you know, people, I think that it's very easy to sort of say, you know, chemistry is something that just happens. But over time, you know, it's you cultivate it. Desire, you cultivate desire.
Yes.
And, you know, it's not something that just, well, I've gone off you now. Well, what part of yourself do you need to reignite in order to feel more attracted to that person? Because often we withdraw because there's something going on with us.
Yes.
We might withdraw because we don't feel good enough, we might feel a bit overweight, or we might feel we're not successful enough, or whatever that might be. But I'm a big believer in that with, you know, desire. You cultivate it. You create an environment where you can have desire. You know, and I think you get couples who have a couple of kids, and all of a sudden it's all domesticity is a killer of passion sometimes, right? So it's really about thinking, actually, I can cultivate this, and just because I'm with someone for a long time and nurture it, it isn't something that just happens. We have to focus on it and build it.
And also being a bit gendered, but, you know, I used to run workshops with women and talk about often our myth is a bit sort of like the knight in shining armour. We expect really a man to turn us on and make us feel sexy. So this idea for women of, like, how do you get a sexy mind?
Yes.
Kind of like, how do you feel desirable? Almost like, how do you turn yourself on?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
bring
yeah.
that to the party, rather than being
Absolutely.
passive and then being angry when it's gone. And he's
Yeah.
not doing that to me.
Yes.
It's a very passive stance. And I think
Yes.
that, again, like the height differences maybe,
Yes.
that still exists
Yeah.
today very much,
Yeah.
really.
And understanding what it is that can generate that emotion in yourself, because whatever happens in a relationship is essentially our emotion that we're generating.
Well, they're a mirror, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone is triggering that, but it's we're generating it. So
Yeah.
in terms of sort of feeling desirable, it's that playfulness, it's that feminine energy that we all have. And it's whether it's music can be a great state changer.
Yeah.
Putting on a great tune, dancing, freeing up that energy within yourself.
Yeah,
Yes,
I find
yes,
even
yes.
from a platonic single perspective, I feel more attractive and I have probably more potential sexual energy that I'd give off when I say been to my beloved gym and had a really good session with
yeah,
music.
yeah.
Or
Because
I'm
you've
doing
changed
something
the
I
state.
love, or I've
Yeah.
gone, kayaking down the river somewhere
Yes.
on the weekend. Because I really go
Absolutely.
into myself, and it's like I feel
ignited
I
your
am my
own
best
energy.
self.
Yeah.
Yes, and because
yeah.
when you move,
Yeah.
we can change our emotional state. So we're
Yeah.
talking about desirability,
Yeah.
movement,
That's
dancing,
so true.
doing something
Dancing
that we
is
love.
amazing for that.
Yeah, dancing is fantastic. It's very
Yeah.
freeing.
That's why
So it's-
Zumba is so popular.
And also,
you don't have to be an expert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes you feel you're at a nightclub, makes you feel like you're
Yeah, and there's
yourself,
camaraderie
whatever.
and there's bonding.
But it's also
Yeah.
using your memory and again your imagination to think back of times when you have felt desirable, when you were in the bedroom with your partner and you were having a sexy
Yes,
time.
yes,
Remember that experience. How did it feel? What did you smell? What did you see? What did you hear? You conjure it up because again, you're going to start generating that emotion in your body.
Well, the best example of that in a way is for instant sort of libido boost. It's often when people go away for a weekend and they're in a hotel room
Yes.
and they're
Yes.
Change the
suddenly they're
environment.
they're sort of almost animalistic. It's
Yeah.
a sort of cliche,
Yeah.
but it's true. And it's
It's
the
true.
environment.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
same
changing
people.
the environment.
But also,
Yeah.
like you say, this memory and these sensual
Yeah.
memories are different parts of the brain.
Yes.
Yes.
We're both quite into neuroscience.
Yes.
But it will light up a different bit of the brain
Yeah.
that remembers when you say sort of like visualise
Yes.
a time when you were turned on with your partner and you were having great sex
Yeah.
and get back in touch with that to bring back those feelings.
It's that part of yourself that maybe has been forgotten about
Yes.
on the way.
Has gone a bit dormant.
Yeah, and then instead what happens is we focus on the other person and say, well, they're not doing enough.
Yes.
They need to do more to make me
It's-
feel this.
It's the old blaming again.
It's the old blaming.
Blaming,
You
shaming.
point the finger and there's three fingers pointing back at you.
Yes.
But with this comes a power, of knowing ourselves and knowing how to use our resources, like imagination, memory, how we change our emotional state.
Now, sorry to interrupt you, Lee, but talking of that, because we're running out of time, come to the end of this week's programme, because it's been so fast and
I could listen
furious,
for
hasn't
hours.
it? I know, the woman. But that's what I wanted to come to, because I wanted to give a plug to you.
Yes.
On your website, you have this thing called Pockets of Wisdom.
I do, yes.
That I thought were wonderful.
Thank
and
you.
I think viewers, have a look at Lee Pycroft's Pockets of Wisdom. Your website is
Yes.
leepycroft.co.uk.
I've got Lee
And on
I've got-
Instagram, I watch them.
Ah,
I do,
and they're
yeah.
like these
I watch them in
amazing
pockets.
little 1 minute
Yeah.
videos. So just before we go today, I thought it would be great as a kind of as a take-home giveaway
Yes.
to our viewers, our lovely viewers. To me, my kind of two favourites really that I thought were, because I use this a lot, were the 7-11 breathing.
Yes.
And maybe that one that's the
Self-soothing.
self-hug.
Right.
So I think we've just got time for
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Can we just
Go on,
show us?
Soothing.
So
Show us the self-soothing,
7-11 is fantastic because it works with the body's nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system gears us up for action. The parasympathetic nervous system calms us down. Now, when you make your out-breath longer, it commands the parasympathetic nervous system to go into a state of relaxation. So this is how it would work.
Should we all do it, Rachel, with the count? Yeah.
And this is great if you're going out before a date and you feel nervous.
Yeah.
This is how you can come out of your emotional brain. And as you do this, your body will calm down, then you'll open up the logical part of your brain.
Okay.
So you put your hands on your tummy and you want to imagine it sort of coming, bulging out like a balloon. You breathe into your nose for the count of 7. Hear the tummy rumbling. Now you keep your shoulders down, let it balloon out, and then you breathe out for the count of 11.
Very long time.
Now, if you can't do 7-11, you could do 5-7. What I think is helpful...
I don't breathe
Or even,
deeply
to be
enough.
honest,
I need
3-5,
to take a
I
deep
say
breath.
to my clients.
But what you can do is, I think what helps is to breathe as if you're breathing out through a straw. So you
Yeah.
breathe in and then... because that will extend the out-breath. You do a few rounds of those, perhaps with your eyes shut, and what it does, it brings you back into the present moment, and then you can start to use your imagination as what is going to be happening on this date? How am I going to show up? How can I leave this person better off for having met? What's the outcome I'm looking for? To come away feeling you know,
It's
I've
really
learned
lovely. It
something.
actually works.
It does.
It's
It works
instant. I mean,
instantly.
it's-
yeah.
It's like
and
going
it's-
into a sort of cocoon. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
the
it
other
switches
one,
off the amygdala part of the
absolutely.
brain.
It
Right, we've got
switches off
1
the
minute, so
emotional
let's
brain.
quickly, the
The
self-soothing.
It's fantastic if you're feeling a bit scattered,
Yep.
a bit little all over the place in your head. You put your right hand
Yeah.
under your arm and put your left hand around yourself like this, and you basically just hold yourself. And this gives a feeling of being contained. Now, some clients I have prefer it down here. If they get to sort of feel a hollow
like a
feeling in their
self-cuddle.
stomach.
Self-cuddle.
It just feels
Yeah.
contained and grounding.
Yeah.
So this is another great way of just utilising your resources again in order for you to ground yourself and feel calm
Yeah.
and
Lee,
show up wholeheartedly.
That is fantastic. I feel you have given 2 precious little gifts to our viewers today. And if you want more to see Lee Prycroft, look on her website. She's got, not hundreds, but loads of these little pockets of wisdom.
Yeah, and on Instagram as well.
Instagram as well. So I'm afraid that is all we have got time for today. If we didn't get your question, I'm really sorry. We had so much going on. We will be back live at 12:30 next Thursday Tuesday, when our topic will be sexual compatibility. So that's why, hey, juicy one. So if you have any questions or comments on that topic or anything else related to love, dating and relationships, get in touch now via Facebook or Twitter at eHarmony UK. And tune in next week. Have a great week and goodbye from us all. Goodbye.